Go on.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
A movie about the Obamas' marriage is in the works.
Mm-hmm. Producers are going for an accurate representation, which means signed on to play Michelle Obama, The Rock. Go on.
Wig or no wig? That's all I want to know. Dick Cheney says he has no regrets about torture.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, it's 600 pages and I have a life, so I haven't read the CIA torture report. But overall, and I know I'm not necessarily going to I'm not going to appeal to any bleeding heart liberal types by saying this. Overall, as someone who lived in New York during 9/11, watched the Twin Towers go down, watched there be a plume of smoke, and a knowledge of the loss of thousands of innocent lives after it happened. Yeah, torture schmorcher. Do what you got to do in these situations. It's so funny because I've been raised, distinctly anti-war, anti-violence, anti-conflict, and I'm not a violent guy. But when that happened, I was like, okay, so here you go. Let's compare what happened to Hiroshima and Nagasaki after Pearl Harbor. Now, not to take anything away from those that died at Pearl Harbor, but they were in the military. They signed up for the eventuality of death defending our country. Whereas the folks that were working in the Twin Towers, not in the military. And the human cost in terms of number of lives lost, exponentially greater than Pearl Harbor. And those are soldiers who died. What did we do after that happened? We leveled Hiroshima and Nagasaki, just obliterated them from the map. So I was of the opinion after 9/11 happened that, okay, well, this originated in Afghanistan. That's clearly bad news. We should send everything over there, turn sand to glass, wipe it off the face of the map, and let them start over again, firm in the knowledge that they shouldn't do that sort of thing. That was my take on 9/11. And I remember the shock and the disappointment as we really did almost nothing at all, as George Bush just seemed to push that thumb of his that everybody was surprised he'd managed to evolve further and further up his own backside and accomplish nothing. So when Dick Cheney said he had no regrets about torture, I'm sort of with him on this one. It's not possibly the most compassionate way to speak about the situation, but when it comes to the people responsible for 9/11, I don't think I have a shred of compassion left. But yeah, Cheney says he's got no regrets about this torture. And you got to admire a guy who sticks to his guns, and waterboards, and battery cables, and electric rods. Oh, and and anal feeding techniques. South Dakota officials have killed their Don't Drive and Jerk campaign over fear of offending people because of the double entendre. How did they not see this one coming? Don't drive and jerk. See, what they had wanted to do, in case you're not familiar with the whole situation, what they'd wanted to do in South Dakota was, well, through the Don't Drive and Jerk campaign, they'd wanted to raise awareness about the dangers of jerking the steering wheel on icy roads. If you've never driven on a slippery surface before. And this goes for, this is not only a great way to stay alive while driving in adverse conditions, but it's also a great metaphor for life. If you start to skid, most people are going to jerk the wheel the other way. But the real trick to your survival is steering into the skid and going with it. That will lessen the impact. But yeah, don't drive and jerk, horribly misguided, and now not so much a thing.
Radio goes one-on-one with Jimmy Page to talk about putting Led Zeppelin together in just a matter of months.
I've found, Robert, I've managed to feel John Bonham's playing. He was playing with Tim Rose. I managed to hear that. And then John Paul Jones came into it right at the tail end. He called me up and said, I hear you putting a group together. I want to get out of studio work. I'd been out of studio work because I'd been in the Yardbirds. And then we had this rehearsal. Sure, but the fact is, from that rehearsal, we, in my house, routining the material and for the album and also the live shows, September, and then we're into the studio recording, And so if we're saying, even say, the month of September, in September, October, there's Christmas, we're already touring over here in December, late December, January. In January, we've completed the album. The album's ready to come out, and we played in San Francisco, which is where we just suddenly, that's it.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Jimmy Page and all your favorite artists.
Fire up your DVR. Time for the Weekend TV.
Wednesday, Michael Bublé hosts and performs on his 4th annual Christmas special, joined by Barbra Streisand, The Rockettes, and more. It's Michael Bublé's Christmas in New York, Wednesday at 8/7 Central on NBC. Thursday night, iHeartRadio brings Jingle Ball right into your living room. The concert compilation includes Taylor Swift, Iggy Azalea, Maroon 5, Sam Smith, One Republic, and more. Catch the big show Thursday at 8/7 Central on the CW. And that's your Weekend TV on iHeartRadio. Happy holidays.
This is America's Talk on iHeartRadio. Informative, discovery, conversation, Asian.
Delivering fascinating subjects, interesting talk, and boobs and fart jokes. AD on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah. You've been talking about me for a long time.
So yeah, don't drive and jerk. That campaign didn't work out so well. South Dakota officials have had to cancel their Don't Drive and Jerk campaign over the fear of offending people because of the obvious double entendre. And like we were talking about before the break, really what you want to do, and I think this is a great metaphor for life, is you need to steer into the skid. If you're not used to driving in slippery or icy conditions, if your car starts to skid, immediately you're going to want to correct the situation by yanking the wheel in the opposite direction. No, it's just going to make everything worse. You're going to lose control. The damage that you're going to inflict to you and your car, and probably the people that are in the car with you, only gets greater when you jerk the wheel in the opposite direction. The move is to steer into the skid and lessen the travesty of the whole situation, because that will help you regain control of what's going on. Which, like I said, is a great metaphor for life. It's funny. A guy who shall remain nameless that I know works in Top 40 radio, and I don't know how old he is, but he's too old to be presenting shows wearing beanies with hoodies over them inside. Like, this guy decided to rock the Trayvon Martin look while he was bringing someone on the other day, and everyone was just like, "Oh God, it's not graceful to do that at your age. It's not okay. It's what's the opposite of graceful? It's disgraceful. I suppose is how that word came into existence." But my point is, what this guy was doing that made everybody laugh at him was he was like going, "Oh God, I'm getting old. I've got to steer in the opposite direction, yank the wheel back. I've got to do ridiculous things." And I know lots of guys that do stuff like that when they hit a midlife crisis or a quarter-life crisis or whatever the hell the case may be. No. Getting old is like skidding. It's like potentially getting into a car crash. As you get older, as you age, you steer into it. You accept what's going on. And that's the way to lessen the severity of the damage that is done to you in that particular situation. I can't think of anybody, and it's not just sort of like dudes in their 40s that are unwilling to accept that they're getting older. It's Funkhauser, did you go to college with anybody that you're still friends with who at age 34 haven't abandoned their sort of like frat boy thing? They're still sort of hanging on to the Greek life. They're still brewskis with the broskies on a regular basis. They're like, "Oh, no, I won't be tied down by one woman." It's like, dude, you're 35. It's okay to be committed to a woman and have just one relationship. It's okay not to play beer pong or get paralytically drunk anymore. That was then. This is now. Just go with it. Do you know anybody like that?
Well, I went to community college, so there was no frats and stuff. But I know some guys that are still there.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
like 10 years. Oh, you're
mean,
a
it's
teacher
not-
now. Oh, teacher's assistant. Oh, that's good too.
It's not necessarily even being a frat boy that refuses to grow up, but the inability and the refusal to grow up is one of the most painful things I think someone can go through. Like, I have a couple of friends like that, the eternal frat boys, the eternal punk rock dude, the eternal skater kid, or whatever. And there's something about them. There's something about them. They cling on to, it's like somebody who clings on to a high school football victory. Remember in 92 when yeah, only because you keep talking about it. Has nothing else happened in the last 23 years? Yeah, that's the sad part of the situation. There's nothing sadder than a guy like that or a girl like that refuses to grow up, that refuses to accept life for what it is, that refuses to steer into the skid and just go with where you're being taken. Which is probably why the folks in South Dakota were like, hey, we got to keep death and destruction down on icy roads over the winter. So the state secretary of the Department of Public Safety came up with this campaign, Don't Drive and Jerk. They said, this is an important safety message, and I don't want this innuendo to distract from our goal to save lives on the road. Maybe I shouldn't have called it Don't Drive and Jerk. Maybe you should have called it Steer Into the Skid. That'll help people understand exactly what they're supposed to do in this particular situation. Don't drive and jerk. He heard from people that were upset about the ad, promised to press the DPS to explain their rationale for the ad. TV ad, in case you didn't see it, featured an animated graphic of a driver spinning into other vehicles after jerking the wheel. The proper way to handle the situation is to slowly pull back onto the road, a narrator explained in a posh British accent on this thing. Overcorrecting only results in chaos. And besides, nobody likes a jerker. Yeah, so there's that. Have you ever, everybody's got one story like this. Have you ever, Funkhauser, been a jerker on the road?
Like swerving the wheel?
No, like, like firing off a couple of knuckle children while stuck in traffic.
No, I don't think so. I came close once or twice.
See,
Can I say
even
that?
if you haven't, yeah, no, I think you can. America's talk. Hello, America. Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better about the situation, I did once. Just, it was so bored. I was so bored. Literally nothing to do. The radio didn't work. Also, I have to say, I was literally going nowhere and nowhere quickly, like not moving at all. Stuck in traffic on the Long Island Expressway in New York. And I was driving like a moving van truck thing that had no radio in it. And I was, but the practical upshot of the situation was the fact that because I was in this moving van, no one could see. Like, there was no one above me. You couldn't see into the car to know what was going on. I don't think people that were below me could even see my face, probably. So, did that. It was inconvenient and required a certain amount of... I thought I was going to be able to deal with the cleanup necessary after the fact. I was not able to deal with the cleanup necessary after the fact. It was a poorly thought out situation. Being a jerker on the road was a poorly thought out situation. I was not prepared for the after effects. Similar to jerking the steering wheel in the opposite direction and steering directly into a ditch because you skid out and you hurt everybody else. So if you are to be on the road, don't be a jerker. So, SantaCon. This past weekend, something called SantaCon happened in various cities around the country. Did you see any of this? In case you're not familiar with the whole ritual, the whole holiday ritual, SantaCon. And there's great videos online because what happens when you get drunk? You brawl. And SantaCon is where people dress like Santa, go on a bar crawl, and get hammered. So if you just go to the interwebs, you can find lots and lots of video of irate drunk dudes dressed as Santa drunkenly beating the snot out of each other. And it's kind of funny. For one dude, though, SantaCon was more than that. It was kind of like the perfect cover. Around 1 p.m. this past Saturday, just gone by, a guy in his 40s walked into a bank in San Francisco wearing a Santa suit.